What's going on, people? I am Swavor, and this is Opinionated Facts. And today we're going to be talking about a tragic shooting that took place in Uvalde, Texas, claiming the life of 21 people, 19 of which were children and 2 being adults. In an active shooter situation where a young man decides to go into an elementary school and just unleash some rage that he had pent up due to him, for what we know, not graduating from high school. So today I have with me the panel, Coco Love.
Hey, you guys.
The journey to be great.
Hello, people.
Q.
Good people.
Eddie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I just want to start from the beginning here. So the shooter's name is Salvador Ramos. And from my understanding, he actually lived with his parents, his mother, and his stepfather at first, where there was a lot of drug use. And I think Mr. Ramos suffered from a speech impediment where he was actually bullied a lot at school. So because of his conditions, I think his grandmother took him in, and that's how he started attending Uvalde High School, where, again, he was having a lot of issues and he eventually dropped out. So according to reports, he was actually getting into it with his grandmother a lot, which led to her eventually getting shot. But I want to take you back a little bit. He was actually getting into it with his mother a lot, too. Before he moved in with his grandmother, they said the police was called a lot to his mother's home. And I guess he continued his behavior and different things that was going on with him at his grandmother's house, which eventually led to him and his grandmother getting into it. So leading up to, I guess, the shooting before it happened, him and his grandmother got into an argument, and he ends up plotting on shooting her. And he ends up shooting her, stealing her car, crashing, and actually going to unleash what we know now, this shooting at an elementary called Robb Elementary School. So what do we know about the grandmother and the relationship with the grandmother and how we got here?
I believe from what I read that he was talking to some young lady that he had I guess like a text internet relationship of some sort, like friendship with or whatever. I believe she lives overseas somewhere. I want to say Germany. So he was talking to her or whatever, and he was saying basically calling his grandmother a B word. He said that he was about to go and shoot her in the head or whatever, or shoot her rather. And I believe she was looking at the phone bill or something like that. And she was like on him about the phone bill and I guess maybe what he was doing, texting, calling or whatever. And yeah, and then he came back, I guess, and said that he just shot her. I imagine it might not have been that great for him to react in that way.
Some of his friends was talking about, I guess, and the neighbor that he had when he was living at his mom's was talking about how they described him as a quiet kid, like he wasn't really, doing a whole lot. But some of the other students that knew him at the high school that he was attending before he dropped out said that he was bullied a lot, but he would promote the violence. He had what they said a smart mouth, and a smart mouth would lead to them actually doing something to him instead of him just actually being bullied all the time for no reason.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting too. And also, I also found out that the shooting, like, where did he get the guns from? They said that he worked at a Wendy's. Now, I don't know how true that is, but he worked at a Wendy's and he saved up the money to actually get the 2 assault rifles that he got. And he had a high capacity clip to go with it. And they said between 300 and 1,600 rounds of ammunition leading up to him actually going through with the shooting. Okay, we know that he had shot his grandmother at this point. We know where he came from and how he got to his grandmother's. But now let's talk about him getting to the school. So does anyone know how he got into the school and what happened prior to him getting in?
I read that it was a door propped open, before he came into the school, he crashed the car. Then people saw him getting out of the car, and it was these 2 people coming out of the funeral home, and he actually fired at them, but they got down, I guess. And then he went towards the school, and it was a door propped open, and he went into the school, and it went from there.
I gotta say something about that too. I think that was so crazy. They say he left one of the guns in the crash vehicle. And I was asking Corsi earlier, I said, man, I wonder what that teacher feels like that actually left the door open. Because I think you said something about she had left something that she was going to get or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think she was going to get her phone, from my understanding, out of her vehicle. And he was like already waiting or something like that from what I read. Like he was already outside waiting, like crouched down behind a car or something. And so she didn't see him or anything. I don't know why she propped the door open. I mean, I've been a teacher before. I don't know, because we're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that at all. So I'm not understanding why she would have done that, but I'm sure it was not. I'm sure she didn't think that was going to happen or whatever. So hopefully she's not getting too much flack, because I mean, I'm sure it was a mistake, or maybe they were about to get out of school for the day or something. There's no telling. But yeah, she left her phone, and propped the door open, and then he just kind of, from my understanding, kind of like just went in behind her, basically.
Okay. And also, I will say this too: when he crashed the vehicle, when he actually approached the school, they say he had gotten into some sort of shootout with the school police.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we know about when he got into the school? What do we know about what happened after that?
From my understanding, when he walked in, he just walked in shooting what was in front of him.
Wow. So he just went in to start shooting kids, and then.
Well, I think from what I was reading, like he went in kind of like shooting or whatever, but then it said that he was like walking toward, I think it was room 111 and 112, I believe. And I think they said that those two classrooms were joined by a bathroom. So it's two classrooms or whatever. And I think I'm assuming that's where he went into, and he stayed and just started shooting people. I'm assuming, I guess maybe that's how maybe both teachers got shot, because there was two teachers that were killed, and then the children. And he just kind of was holed up in there.
They said that he barricaded himself in, and I think that was really interesting too. But I wanted to take a second here to say, could you imagine if you were one of those students, or you was the teacher, and you were a part of this? Let's take a second to put yourself in the shoes of these people, and just imagine what kind of fear they must have been feeling at that time. That's the part there that, like, I have no way of saying that I could identify with that, because I haven't been in that situation before, but I can imagine what that must have felt like. So here's the thing that also caught my attention as well. They said that the children that were actually in the school were trying to call police. Once they found out that what was going on, this guy was in here shooting or whatever, a lot of the kids tried to get out of the classrooms by crawling through windows. Some of the parents, from my understanding, were going, I guess, trying to get some of their kids out. And when the police showed up sometime after, there was this whole thing about, which is coming out now, about the police not actually going straight in to go at the shooter, but instead they stood outside for, what I understand, almost an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the whole time, that's like, I saw like this timeline kind of like of that hour, and there's this one particular child, I think the baby called 911 like 4 times, like reporting, you know what I'm saying? Like the first time they called, and I think they just said, it's somebody shooting in here. The second time they called, they were reporting that people were dead. The third time I think they called, they were saying, this many people are still alive. Like I think 8 people were still alive in the room. And then that last time they called, the 911 operator was able to tell the student, they didn't say if it was a boy or a girl, but was able to get them to stay on the line, like to just leave the line open or whatever. So I guess it could be heard what was going on. And that's where you hear the police come in, and they engage with the shooter, and they killed him or whatever. But it's just like, and I think that's part of my problem when it comes to stuff like this, honestly, is putting myself in those shoes, putting myself in the shoes of the children, or in the shoes of a parent of one of the children, or in the shoes of the teacher. Like I said, I've been a teacher before, and I just know they probably were so confused, teachers as well, because you know that these things can happen. Unfortunately, you do have to like kind of not train, but go through drills with your kids. I remember having to do that last year with my students. It's sad, but you have to go through active shooter trainings now. So just like we used to sit outside the classroom and in the hallway and cover our heads with a book or whatever for like tornado drills and stuff, and do stuff like that, there's also one where you have to do one with an active shooter. And it's really sad, because the kids know, like, they're not crazy. Like, they know, like, are we doing this in case somebody comes in and shoot at the school? And it's just like, it's sad in itself that you even have to do that. But yeah, I can only imagine I'm sure they were scared and just like really confused, because they probably never thought either way that they would see something like this. And for the parents to have to go and get their own babies, I mean, the problem here obviously is that an 18-year-old had a rifle. So I'm not trying to put the blame on the police either, but at the same time, bro, what was going on? Like, what's going on? Because he's in there just having target practice with somebody's child.
I want to add to that too. It was a complete security failure, from the door being left open. And also, I read that the security personnel for the school was not present when the guy went in. So it's like they said he wasn't even on the grounds of the school. So that's just like saying I understand it's a small town, and they most likely, it's some small towns in Alabama, so they only have like one officer, opposed to a bigger city where they have multiple ones. But he wasn't around at the time when this guy was able to come into the school. And from the door being propped open, they should have had like security tags where you scan to come in and out. So she shouldn't have to prop the door open. It was a complete security failure. It shouldn't have happened.
And I also saw where police officers did try to enter, but he started shooting at them. I think one was grazed, and that's when they pulled back and decided to wait on, I guess, some type of tactical team or something. So I guess that's what caused the initial delay. But I don't know. It just still seems like something more could have been done within that hour.
To add to what you just said, I totally agree, and we have to also look at the life of the officers. Of course, when you become a police officer or a person that's supposed to be enforcing the law to serve and protect, of course you want to do that. But we also have to keep in mind too that these people also want to go home to their families as well. And by no means am I saying that they shouldn't have done anything and it was justified what they did. But I guess I'm saying that they were probably also scared as well. But that is your job.
I think you made a point that he had barricaded himself in. I don't know if that was, at the start, or I don't know if he was barricaded himself in different doors. But it seemed like the reason that it took so long was because he was basically shooting and moving, and then he might have been hiding, in different classrooms. Then he'll come, shoot some more. That might have been why it took so long, because they didn't know. They didn't have a necessarily isolated area to where he was at. It should have been some way they could have, gone in there sooner. But that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I wasn't quite clear. While they were waiting in the hallway, was he continuing to shoot students at that point? Or had he stopped shooting and they were just waiting for, again, backup to arrive? That was unclear to me.
They were saying that a young lady during that time could hear the police. She had actually made a call herself to try to get help. And she was inside the classroom and she had covered herself with some of the blood that was already on the floor so that she could pretend that she was dead and the shooter wouldn't shoot her. But she was trying to call for help. And she said she could hear the police in the hallway and was wondering why they weren't coming in. But later on, I think someone was saying, I was watching a clip of the interview and they were talking about how the police did not know whether children were alive still or what they should do from that point, because I don't know if they were aware that there was anyone still alive in the room that the young girl was calling from. Going on to the next point, you guys, the security measures. Of course, we know she could have closed the doors. Of course, we know she shouldn't have left the door open. But what does this mean now? What do you guys think that we should do at this point to prevent this type of stuff from happening again?
I mean, I've already seen, articles that say that, that schools are beefing up their security or whatever, or plan to. I mean, it's basically the end of the school year now for most districts, but that they're planning to, beef up their security measures. I can't remember who just said it, but like we were saying, maybe having like an ID card situation. But, even with that, I guess, you can still get around, people can still get around it because you can have somebody else that kind of just not thinking and like don't make sure that the doors are all the way closed and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, to me, honestly, the biggest thing, that would probably be the easiest way to go, what I just said. But like the biggest thing would be to maybe stop people from being able to get these rifles at such young ages. Because for what? But that's a whole nother, I guess, subject and, situation there. So, but I think definitely increasing the security for sure.
More security, I'll say. It definitely should have been somebody. If it wasn't one resource officer, there should have been another officer there. Always at all times, to make sure that something like that don't happen. And I understand like schools have budgets on the amount they can spend, but when it comes to security and they know that this kind of stuff keeps happening, I think that's a great investment. They should invest in having, even no matter how small the town is, you need more than one resource officer. That way, if somebody has to go to lunch or they got an emergency and they have to leave or something like that, somebody is always there to make sure something like this don't happen.
I know Trump was talking about arming the teachers. What do you guys think about that?
That's horrible. That's bad.
No.
These teachers are not, some of these teachers, and not to discredit teachers. I love teachers and I commend them for everything. But some teachers are not stable enough themselves to have a firearm in a classroom full of kids. They might hold some kids hostage. I'm just that's
no, that's for real. Seriously though, that really can't happen. I'm pretty sure I've heard of teachers losing their mind. I'm almost cursed, but listen, again, as a person who has been a teacher before, I can see how sometimes, but I don't necessarily think that's the move there, because you don't know what they have going on either. You know what I'm saying? That's still a gun. I don't think there really should be any firearms in the school. Because not only that, but you also run the risk of, if it's a teacher that teaches like high school kids, you also run the risk of, a high school child overpowering a teacher and getting the gun from her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And doing the same thing. So I don't think there should be any firearms in the school unless it is by a security officer. I think that's the only time it should be one.
I also want to touch on the closing too, because this is very important. So the way that Mr. Ramos was killed, because we were just talking about security, I think he was hiding in a closet, I guess, when the police finally breached and came in. I think this was after agents had arrived on the scene and they decided to make a plan to go in. This was, like I said, maybe I think even like almost an hour after the shooting had begun. And they came in, and one of the agents had a shield, and Mr. Ramos stepped out of a closet, what I believe from the reading, and he started firing at the officers, and they I guess they started firing back, and they shot and killed him. And that's how the close to this shooting took place. And after that, I guess they went in to see, I guess, what had all the damage that had been done. So that's why I think security is very important. And I'm not quite sure if you can prevent anything like this from happening, because Mr. Trump, he did make a good point. He said, if you unarm law-abiding citizens, then it just creates a situation where now you have more people without guns, because criminals are going to get the guns. Regardless of what's going on, they're going to get theirs. So I do think in some ways, I do agree that we may not need to give everybody a gun, obviously, but I do believe that we have to have someone allowed to have guns so that we can fight fire with fire, because there's, as we can see in this situation, I don't think this man could have been talked to or anything. I think he had it set in his mind that he was going to kill, and I don't think anything else could have stopped him but what happened to him.
I feel like, how most people like, dang, they crazy, like this person crazy, that person crazy. I'm sure they knew that he was having some type of crazy thoughts or something was going on, especially with all the stuff he had, the back and forth arguments and altercations. They should have known he was capable, or at least of doing something of that sort. Like, because in most shootings, all of the profiles almost always sound the same, that the person was doing something crazy or odd that just a normal person wouldn't be doing. And if it didn't raise a red flag, I just feel like the signs be there.
To your point, I did see somewhere, and I saw the clip of, I think it was one of his classmates. They actually said they were saying the opposite. They were saying that he actually was a bully, and he would like hurt animals and everything like that. So to your point, if that is true, then there's your sign right there. But I think a bigger thing is, we always we're trying to figure out a way to stop it once it's happening, but we need to figure out how to stop it before it happens. And I think that one factor that's it seems that's coming with these mass shootings lately is, they're getting younger and younger. I think the one that happened in Buffalo, I think the guy was 18, if I'm not mistaken, or if not 18, he was really young. And with this guy, I believe he's, 18. So what's going on as far as from a mental health standpoint, that you have these, these kids just either snapping or just having all these, these type of killer thoughts. What's going on? What are they seeing? What are they, what's going on to corrupt their mind, or if it's not corrupting their mind, what's pushing them to the edge to do this?
One question that comes to mind when it comes to these shootings that have happened within less than a month is as far as what can be done in regards to social media. Because we all know that our activities are being monitored through social media, whereas you start Googling something and next thing you know, you're on Facebook and you see all these ads and stuff. So I guess with him, because I saw that like 30 minutes prior to the shooting, he had sent some Facebook messages. I seen some place where it was private Facebook messages, but he was talking about, of course, shooting his grandmother, and he was heading to the school and things like that. So I was just wondering, like, with that type of stuff, like, I don't know, like, there's not something that can immediately be recognized, like certain words, like even with YouTube, it's certain things that you can't say, or, you'll be demonetized or things like that. But I was just wondering, how is it that with all the technology we have, certain things like that is not, I guess, flagged immediately?
That's a very good point. I think that's true. Like I guess like you're saying more so like when certain things are typed in, it should be like sent to someone that monitors that because that could be a potential threat, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I also want to bring light to the individuals that were killed in this horrible situation. And here are some of the names.
So 21 victims. You have McKenna Lee Elrod, age 10, Layla Salazar, age 11, Miranda Mathis, 11, Nevaeh Bravo, 10, Jose Manuel Flores Jr., 10, Xavier Lopez, 10, Tess Marie Mata, 10, Rogelio Torres, 10, Eliana Amaya Garcia, age 9. You have another Eliana Torres, and she's 10. Annabelle Rodriguez, 10. Jackie Cazares, age 9. Uzziah Garcia doesn't have their age there. Jace Carmelo Luvanos, age 10. Mate Rodriguez, age 10. Jayla Nicole Seguero, age 10. Irma Garcia, age 48. Ava Morales, age 44. Amory Joe Garza, age 10. Alexandria Anaya Rubio, age 10, and Alethea Ramirez, age 10. So all these babies are like 9 and 10, 11 at the oldest.
And I also want to bring up a death that occurred indirectly to the shooting. Irma Garcia, the 4th grade teacher, her husband died 2 days later after the shooting of a heart attack. So
yes,
family members are saying he died from a broken heart.
Yes, I saw that. It was so sad. It's so interesting to me too, though. Like, I know first of all, the fact that we're back here this week talking about this, and we just talked about something like this last week, just blows my mind. And I pray and hope that this is not our topic. Like something like this is not our topic next week, because this is crazy. And it's sad to say, I think it needed to be done, but it's very interesting. Like we noted last week with the shooter at Tops and how he was arrested, but this shooter was not. And again, I'm not saying that it didn't need to be done, because clearly, this was a very heinous crime, but it's just like, and I guess it just depends on the circumstances and what's going on at the time when the police are able to access the person. But I just thought that was interesting. I hate for it to be like a prime example right here before us, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we just talked about this last week.
In closing, you guys, I have to say myself, I think this is extremely sad. And I know that it's probably going to not even be enough time that we can say that we need to give to these families for them to actually be able to get over something like this. But we do have to learn from it. And I really hope that they can find some sort of peace, because I know it's got to be extremely painful. I have a son myself, and I just couldn't imagine. But anyway, I want to thank y'all so much for listening. I want to thank the panel for joining me today. Until next time, you guys, peace.